pick it up right where I left off. So, are there enough reasons for you to really focus on expireds? Yes. Is it going to take a lot of time? No. Are you going to learn how to do it over time? Yes. Is it complicated? No. Can you make money? Yes. Well, let's move on. Let me show you how to do it, because the system that I've been teaching for years and years and years is really quite easy to understand. There's 3 steps to it. Step number 1, you've got to find a way to talk to those people. I mean, at some point we have to market to them, get them to talk to us. We've got to go find them, talk to them, but we've got to be able to talk to them. Then, of course, after you talk to them, the idea would be to get them to meet with you, and then, of course, if they meet with you, get them to hire you. We're going to go through all 3 of these tonight, and I'm going to take you through it pretty rapidly. I allocate 4 hours per week for marketing, and when I say that, what I mean is this, that if every week you set aside 4 hours dedicated to doing those things that are going to get you the appointments that you need. And those appointments that you're going to need are going to require that you do stuff. Like, for instance, you're going to have to call, mail, visit. Call, mail, and visit. All 3. Now, you might pick 1 or 2 and skip one of them, but I'm going to tell you that if you do all 3, it improves your skills immensely all the way around. First thing, as far as marketing, I would recommend that you spend an hour a week making calls to your expired list. Why? It keeps you sharp. It keeps your skills improving. 1 hour each week. In that hour, I know, based on my students' numbers, that you should be able to dial the phone between 17 and 21 times, and you should get answers on the other end of the phone somewhere in the area of 20%. That means if you call for an hour, you should talk to 4 people. If you did that an hour of each week, you'd get really, really good at talking to people on the phone. And calling them is something that I know every one of you are saying, but I don't want to call them because I don't know what to say. And there's reasons that agents don't call, but if you just follow these guidelines, try not to insult them, try not to lie to them, try not to sound desperate, and try to be genuine. Now, I know that sounded, well, but Scott, that isn't really getting me anywhere. I don't know what you mean. Well, let's go to this part right down here. You see where it says try to be genuine and just learn something from them? I want to cover something here, because I think for agents, this has always been a bone of contention. They don't really enjoy rejection. Now, this is no surprise. You probably don't like rejection, and anyone who does say that they like rejection doesn't really like rejection either. They're just liars. None of us like to be rejected. I don't like being rejected. And the best way to reject me is when I tell you about my super duper special bundled up whatever it is, and you just say, no, I don't want it. Then I have to feel rejected. But I don't really feel rejected, and let me tell you a reason why and how you can do the same thing. If you understand anything about rejection, the cause of it comes from trying to get hired. Now, I know this is going to sound really crazy. You're probably not even going to believe me. In fact, you're probably going to stop listening to me. But here's the solution to being rejected. The best way to avoid the fear of rejection is stop trying to get hired. What is it that makes you feel rejected? They're not going to accept you. You go to their door, they're not going to like you. You call them on the phone, they're not going to hire you. Here's an idea. Stop trying to get hired. Because when you stop trying to get hired, suddenly there's nothing to reject. And here's the other thing about trying to get hired. Remember, maybe you're not going to equate this all together, but when you try to get a listing, when you try to get hired, it actually comes across as sounding like you're desperate. And the more desperate you are, the more they don't want to do business with you, which is why when agents are desperate, they have a hard time getting any business. But when you're not desperate, you seem to have all kinds of business. And, well, it's not because you have the business that made you not desperate. It's because you weren't desperate that got you the business. My point is this. As soon as you stop trying to get hired, you stop sounding like you're desperate. And when you stop trying to get hired and you stop sounding desperate, you also start to be more calm, genuine, and friendly. See? And I said to you, you don't have to know what to say. All you got to do is don't lie to them. Don't make them mad at you. Don't antagonize them. But be genuine. Try to learn something from them. And I'll give you some dialogue. Because let's imagine you called them up on the phone. A couple of things that you might want to try not to do. Don't call them up on the phone and make them mad. Here's how you can make them mad. Call them up and tell them that you now know that their house is expired. Why would you say that to them? Because their response is going to be, well, where were you then when it was on the market? If you know it's not on the market, damn it, why do you know it's not on the market but you didn't sell it when it was on the market? Don't fall for that trap. Here's something that I recommend that you try. And when you try it, you're going to find that it's a lot easier. Don't call them because their house is not there, that it's expired. In fact, tell them the truth, that you know it used to be on the market, but now you're not sure because it isn't showing up. Now, that's a lot nicer way of saying it. By saying that, you can be curious about stuff and call for information to try to learn something from them. Here's something you could learn. How about asking them to share with you the things that their agent did to expose their house to the marketplace? I know you're saying, but why would I want to know that? Well, I'm just going to go back to this thing that I said earlier. If you want to not feel rejection, stop trying to get hired. And if you really want to get good at talking to expireds or any prospect for that nature, don't lie to them. Don't sound desperate. And best way to sound desperate is, yeah, that's it. Try to get a listing. Okay, so if you go through this, and my students have proven this over and over again, if you're curious, that was a hard word to get out. All you got to ask them is, share with me what your agent did to expose your home to the market. Why would you want to know that stuff? Well, it's good information, really. Ask them if there's something they wish their agent had done. Ask them how they picked their agent. Ask them how they're going to pick their next agent. The whole point of this is don't overcomplicate it. Get good at having a conversation with them. So if you call them an hour a week, you're going to probably reach a handful of them. And after a couple weeks of doing this, you're going to find that you'll get very comfortable and they won't be mad at you anymore. Why would they be mad at you? Well, because you're not antagonizing them and you're not lying to them. Well, what's the most common lie being told by an agent today to someone whose house was on the market? Yep, that's it. I've got a buyer. Don't lie to them. That isn't why you're calling to lie to them. You're not trying to start a relationship off on the wrong foot. Second thing you could do, marketing-wise, is mail stuff. Now, mailing, this is what I find intriguing. Most agents are more likely to do mailing because they don't want to risk the rejection. But then they get the phone call and they get rejected, they think, because they're still doing the wrong thing. So it all falls together. But mailing is a great way of being able to reach people, but you have to be good at getting them to call you. I would encourage you to spend a minimum of an hour each week. Dedicate that to doing your mailings. But the mailings, you have to understand, there are components that we know as marketing people what works. Sequential letters work best. Sequential, that means that one letter kind of almost tied into the one before it, which tied into the one before that. You need to send letters every 4 to 5 days. Not every day, not every 2 days, not every 3 days, every 4 to 5 days. Not every 2 weeks, every 4 to 5 days. Only mail letters first class. Don't send them bulk. There's nothing more humiliating than getting a not-so-personalized letter to occupant. It makes you feel like they don't care enough to know who I am. And that's where being personalized really makes a difference. You need to be able to add the personalization, make it to them. Don't make it to dear occupant. And print them on a weekly basis. When I say print them on a weekly basis, I'm going to show you the letter sequence that's in the toolkit. What you should do is every Monday when you get your new list of expireds, don't overthink it. Just add them into your spreadsheet, merge them, because these letters are all mergeable, so you can merge them with Dear Bob and Mary, and everything feeds right into the letter. It takes you a little bit of time to learn how to do it. The first couple of times it'll take longer than an hour, but all you want to do is print all of the letters. So if I have 20 new expireds, I want to go ahead and print all 5 of the letters for all 20 of them, and then mail them when the time comes. So you want to do it all at one time. So you're sitting there, instead of sitting down and printing off 10 letters, sit down and print off all of the letters for all 20 of those prospects. Yeah, I know some of the letters you may have to throw them away if they call you too soon, but gosh, wouldn't that just be terrible? And set a budget. This is something else I see agents do. They start doing letters and they send one. And that's like the end of it. You know, they spend all this time with this great idea where they're going to get the list of expireds, they're going to send out letters, and they get that one letter, and that's it. and then they wonder why they don't have any business going on. Well, because they didn't really commit to doing it. My recommendation is set aside the budget of a couple $100 per month for about 3 months. Commit to doing it every week for 3 months, every single week. Every week, take the new expireds, merge them into your letters so that you can have them all personalized, print them all out, and then stuff them, fold, stuff, and stamp. If you do that for 3 months, you'll be amazed at how much business you're going to have. And here's a statistic that I found that I thought was pretty interesting too. If all you do is send one letter, just one letter, let's say you send a letter to 100 expireds, you might get, if it's a good letter, a 2 to 3% response rate. If you send a second letter, that would be 2 letters, in the same sequence, that increases your response rate to more than double what it was if you send one. But if you watch the way this goes, if you send 3 letters and then a 4th letter and a 5th letter, you have actually increased the odds of a response, not by just the addition of the numbers. I mean, if you add it all up, if every letter has a 2% chance and you send someone 5 letters, it could be 10%. Right? Yeah. But it really is much higher than that. Because what happens in the subsequent letters is they start to recognize who you are. And the letters themselves have different points to them. You know, the initial letter is really the one that says, look, I know that your home doesn't appear in the MLS anymore, and I'm just curious as to whether or not you're still accepting offers on it. Now, the letter is meant to really take them into thinking, but let's imagine they throw it away because they got a whole bunch of other letters. And the second one kind of reiterates it and says, look, I sent you a letter, but you never got back to me. I'm just curious. And they all kind of have a common theme, which is offering something. There's a call to action in every one of them. If all you did was send out letters, you took the list, and on day 1, you printed out all the letters. So day 1, you're sending letter number 1, and then on day 5, you're sending out letter number 2, and then on day 9, you're sending out number 3, and then on day number 14, you're sending out letter number 4, and on and on and on. If you were to do that, and you just did that, you'd probably find that you'd have enough calls coming in that you'd have some business, and then you could turn this over to an assistant. That would be a really nice thing to do so that you didn't have to do it. Isn't that a good idea? Now, the letters are part of the new expired listing toolkit, and I'll talk about that when we get pretty much done. All right, so we talked about sending